All right, here we go for everybody else. Man, there's so much I want to cover in daily news and hot topics today. I'll just tell you up front that over on Instagram, we're dealing with issues of abortion, so you definitely want to slide on over there and join that conversation. But here we cover the news, and I don't even have a good order, so I'm just going to roll through these hot news topics and let you know what's really going on. So, in terms of COVID, we're going to be at 227,000 dead by Friday, according to expected results. All the states are either holding steady or experiencing a increase in COVID cases, so that's definitely an issue. But here's what's interesting: the White House just released a report. It comes from the Committee on Advancing America's Global Leadership in Science and Technology. You can go ahead and search for the original article yourself. But in that article on advancing America's global leadership in science and technology, it declares that one of President Trump's big accomplishments is ending the COVID pandemic in the United States. So I'm sure that you would question the validity of that and maybe want to look into it. Wisconsin, at the same time, had the highest one-day death toll on record. At the same time, on that very same day, Donald Trump held another outdoor, no mask wearing, close contact rally. And I'll be honest with you. On the one hand, I watch him from YouTube. The guy's quite an entertainer. Like, he's hilarious. COVID, 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 COVID. Like, it's entertaining to watch. Is he presidential? Maybe not, but he can certainly keep a crowd going. So I do appreciate that. You know what other thought, man? Listen, if these people want to be out there, let them. One thing I love about America is that people have a right to be stupid. And if they choose to go out there shoulder to shoulder and risk exposure, then as an American, they should have every right to do that, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to just touch on this one because, boy, it's a hot one. But have you guys heard about the French teacher who was beheaded outside of his school? Woo-hoo! This guy decided to engage in a political satire with the Prophet Muhammad, and Muslims don't play that smack. Seriously, they don't play that smack, yo. Cartoons and caricatures of their prophet are not handled very well. But this guy decided to do it, and now he don't got a head. So they're doing an investigation, but boy, respect people's culture, man. If they don't like it, just step away. They don't have a problem with the conversation, but for some reason, the cartoon is not how they play. So please stop playing with them, people. New Orleans. Can I talk to all my New Orleans people, please? Listen here. I got so many names I could drop. I'm not even going to start, but I got a lot of people that I care about from New Orleans or who lived in New Orleans when I was there, and sadly they're getting their third hurricane to hit the East Coast in the last number of weeks. This one is called Tropical Storm Zeta, but they predict that it will increase to a hurricane, perhaps category 2, by the time it hits the Louisiana coast. So big shout out to the people down there, and make sure that you send your prayers and thoughts if you got any people. Also, just so that you know, this is the 27th named storm. The record is in 2005. There were 28 named storms, and the season is not quite over yet. So we're definitely on track to have the most named hurricanes ever. So there's that. Boy, in ballot news, again, I don't know where to start because there is so much going on. But I like to talk about ballot suppression, especially now that we're getting closer and closer to the ballots. So Trump continues to question the validity of the elections, especially as the data seems to be mounting that it's likely he will not win. Excuse me. So now he's calling for a winner to be declared on the day of the election, rather than counting every ballot. So that's his latest idea. And the funny thing is the Supreme Court might get involved in this, right? So the Supreme Court of Wisconsin has already ruled that they will not accept any ballots that are received after Election Day. Now, I think in California, I should be corrected if that's the case, put it in the chat. It has to be postmarked by the day, but can be received later. But in this case, I think that they are switching it up. And also keep in mind that the news that I'm getting for those of you who have not already cast your ballot, if you have it in hand, is to hold your ballot and drop it off at the polling place the day of the election. There's a lot of concern at this point about its fate in the mail. What I'll also tell you is a federal judge just ruled that Donald Trump cannot be defended by the Department of Justice. A woman is suing Donald Trump for defamation because he says she lied about the fact that he raped her. He calls it a lie. Defamation means that you tell a lie in the act of defaming someone's character. Now, here's the catch-22. Because of the defamation case, it now opens the opportunity for all of the evidence to come out, even though it's just a civil suit. So Trump tried to get the Department of Justice, the federal government's lawyers, to serve as his defenders. But the judge said we can't do that because, sadly, rape is not considered one of the job descriptions of President of the United States. So he's on his own. Now, if you really want to peek into the sick, sadistic mind of a white male, then you might want to look up Keith Raniere. I don't know how to say this dude's name. And he's also part of this group called Nexium, Nxivm. Now, I'm not going to go too much into it, but what I will say is I'm very proud of the brave women who have testified against this self-help guru. You're going to have to, you're on your own after that, folks. But I will talk about armed poll watchers. Did you hear about Donald Trump Jr., our president's son, making a call for, what did he call it? An army of Trump security. He wants an army for Trump's election security. What he wants are Trump supporters to go to the polls. Also keep in mind that I think it was in Wisconsin, a judge just ruled that it is okay to open carry in polling places. So can you imagine, also add to the record in New York, there was that cop who was using the police loudspeaker in his car along with his blue and red lights flashing, talking about Trump 2020 near a polling place. So these white boys are about that voter intimidation business. And if you see some white men with some guns near your polling place, fam, then you know it's really real. What about the stimulus? You know, I've been trying to talk about the stimulus, trying to manifest this stimulus check into my household. Well, that's dead now. So here's the kicker about how these white boys be doing it, though. So Mitch Hands McConnell basically just adjourned the Senate until November 9th. So his last order of business was to push through the confirmation of Amy Barrett. Now that she's officially sitting on the Supreme Court, he considers business done, and they're going to go ahead and head on back home until after the elections. So no stimulus, baby. Not going to happen until they pick it back up. I will also say, since we're talking about Amy Coney Barrett, we are concerned about issues of women's abortion rights. So Poland has already ended abortion. There's a huge uprising of women there who are protesting against it. So if you see anything in your social media regarding a red lightning bolt, just know that that is connected to the women's protests against this anti-abortion movement that's going on. And it's making its way to the United States. We know how she feels about it. We're not sure how she's going to judge about it, but we do know that there's a case coming out of Mississippi that deals with the 15-week ban on abortion. So what I hope to get into today, and Homeroom is lit, so I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but in today's session, we hope to deal with the issue of the viability. Nobody thinks that a baby should be abused. So at what point do we agree that a child does have rights, right? When is it too late for the mom to say, I'm ready to abort this child? Or is it ever, right? So that's going to be part of the debate. We're going to see if we can come up with some consensus on when we would define a child as viable. But boy, the top of the story goes back to the white male power structure. Philadelphia, listen, Philadelphia is not the home to no chumps in the black community. The roots are from Philly. Now, of course, they got some heat from Jaguar Wright, but I might get into that in terms of defamation, right? Let me just segue right quick. Trump has this defamation suit because the person says that Trump lied. That's the whole deal about defamation. Now, if you're following the Jaguar Wright situation, now she's called out a lot of people. And the irony is she's still able to speak her truth because none of those people can sue her for defamation because they don't have the evidence that she lied. Apparently, what she's saying might actually be true. They're just embarrassed and they can't do nothing about it. So her single-handed mission to bring down the misogyny that's in the black music industry and maybe the music industry in general, is certainly underway. And if that's something you want to look into, you should check out Jaguar Wright. She's posted a lot of things that you might find extremely interesting. But that's Philly, baby. Philly. Who else is out of Philly? Jill Scott is out of Philly. Dr. Umar Johnson's out of Philly. And we can all levy criticisms on all of these black people, but we can't call them weak people. I can promise you that. Well, here's Walter Wallace Jr., 27-year-old male, was having a mental episode, right? And I don't even want to spend too much because I'm already 11 minutes in. But boy, I'm a teacher. I teach high schoolers, and I'm going to tell you, mental health challenges are facing so many of us on so many levels that we really need to start taking it far more seriously. So the authorities were called to help the family support him at least 3 times that same day. So the police knew what was going on. The mother tells us, according to her report, that the second or third call, the police were actually standing there laughing at him, kind of mocking him, which harkens me back to what happened to Oscar Grant. Oscar Grant, on I think a New Year's Day several years ago, was being agitated by the police. And when he got fed up, then the police said they felt threatened because he started to respond to them. And then they killed him because they felt threatened. Well, it's the same thing that happened here. So they were there. He was having a mental breakdown. They're mocking him and clowning him. The mom apparently takes the son and walks away. But then somehow there's another engagement. The guy has a knife. He's walking around brandishing a knife, yelling like he's clearly got a mental episode. And the police feel threatened. And so they felt that it was appropriate to shoot him because he was a threat to them. Now, here's my thing. First of all, they called the ambulance. They didn't call the police, but the police show up to the scene, right? They showed up to the scene. They are the ones who shot this man. Now, I'm just saying, if the EMT showed up to the scene first, maybe he wouldn't have got shot. If a firefighter showed up to the scene first, maybe he wouldn't have got shot. If his high school football coach showed up to the scene first, maybe he wouldn't have got shot. If his pastor showed up, right? But it was the police who showed up. They showed up to the scene. They decided that they felt threatened by him and then proceeded to shoot him. It's a complicated situation, right? But something about it just don't feel right. Now, I understand how the laws are structured. And listen, the laws can't demand that any person, police officer or not, put themselves in harm's way on behalf of someone else. I appreciate that. I don't want us to call on you to kill yourself, right? To get yourself harmed, trying to help. I understand that situation. At the same time, though, who is responding? Are we asking the guys who are armed and prefer to shoot first and shoot based on their feeling of threat? These insecure white boys with guns is who we're calling in to help us with this situation? Or is there a way to restructure? This is my take on the defunding of the police. It's not about taking the money from these armed men. Maybe the armed men aren't the appropriate party to call for these kinds of situations. Moving that money into more appropriate places is the way to go. And if I'm not mistaken, Philadelphia uses like half of the city budget on police. Half of the city budget is going to the police. Like that's a huge amount of money on a single priority. And there's got to be other ways that we can deal with it, especially when we see this issue of mental health. And since we're talking about it, I'll tell you my top story as we wind things up. Breonna Taylor. Say her name, family. Remember to say her name. I consider her our modern Rosa Parks. And it just came out. 2 of the jurors who were on the grand jury have now spoken out on camera. I think they were interviewed by CBS. So you can see that for yourself. They consider what the police did criminal. They're obviously, a lot of us are very disappointed at the black male Republican Attorney General, Mr. Cameron, and his whole role of not even giving the grand jury an opportunity to bring that charge to the police, the charge of murder. So if you want me, here's something I thought would be interesting. If you want me to do a Saturday school lesson on how the grand jury works, from the time that you get detained by the police out on the street through grand jury and trial all the way to conviction, there's a pathway there, and I think people should be aware of that pathway so they're more aware of their legal rights. If you want to hear something on that or my take on it, let me know in the chat and I can put something together. What I wanted to do was spend my last few minutes doing a recap on what happened with Breonna Taylor's case, right? So first of all, the police were investigating someone else, someone that Breonna Taylor knew. Second fact of the case, they went to get a warrant from a judge for Breonna Taylor's place. And their justification for that was that the post office told the police that there was a suspicious package or suspicious packages going to Breonna Taylor's address. Breonna Taylor knew this guy who they had under investigation, so they wanted the judge to give them the warrant to go into Breonna Taylor's place and try to find out what's going on with these packages. Okay, if that makes sense. Now here's the problem. What the police told the judge was not true. So the Postal Service has come out on record and saying, no, we did not contact the police about any kind of suspicious package. We had nothing to do with that. So the police concocted this story, which means the judge who signed this warrant in good faith was given bad information. So that's a problem. Next, the warrant was designed as a no-knock warrant. Now, the advantage of a no-knock warrant is when you go to a place, you immediately breach. So you bring the battering ram, you knock down the door so that you can catch the people who are inside that property unaware. And that surprise effect is what is most effective when it comes to the no-knock warrant. And they are supposed to do a risk assessment and determine how dangerous it is to go and do that. They botched the no-knock warrant because what did they do? They knock. According to the police, they knocked and announced themselves as police. Now, according to Mr. Williams, I think his name is. According to the boyfriend who survived, I don't see his name right here on my notes, Walker. According to Walker, they were knocking, but they did not announce themselves as police, so he perceived them as robbers. There was a story that came out recently about some, what do you call those live? Some celeb had just also been robbed by some masked men, so they thought that they were being robbed. When they breached is when Mr. Walker shot Mattingly the police. He got shot in the leg when they breached. And then all the cops, they lit that apartment up, right? And then Breonna Taylor gets killed. So they messed up the warrant. They got the warrant under false pretenses. And then when they did breach, it was over at that point. So that's what's going on with the Breonna Taylor situation, and it is certainly, we can tell, a strong power play for the black Republican Attorney General, because you certainly get a lot of political points for doing that. Now, today is Wednesday. Wednesday is usually my day to send a message of encouragement. So in the next few minutes, I just want to speak positivity into your life. I always try to remind you that some days the only positive thing that you're going to hear about you are the things that you say about you. So why don't you take a moment and just be reflective on all of the good things that you represent. Think about all of the people that you have helped in the last 7 days. Remember all of the time that you have sacrificed in order to pursue your mission and your greatest self. Let's just be reminded of the fact that you are a good person, even during these difficult times. And while there may be a lot of pressure from the outside to cause you to be insecure, to cause you to question your contribution, to cause you to feel maybe depressed, maybe anxious, maybe unsure of what's going to happen in the future. Remember that within you, there is a light that is greater than the world, right? Within you, there is something that can allow you to not only endure the challenges that you're facing, but to go beyond your current circumstances. And so I just want to remind you, you're stronger than you know. Sometimes our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Sometimes our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And I just want to give you permission to tap into your power, because you've got greatness within you. All right. Peace, 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 peace.